welcoming members and non-members alike to today's virtual conversation, Going for Gold Part 2, the Portuguese Golden Visa. This is presented in partnership with Golden Visa Centrale. If this is your first time to join us online, allow me to introduce Manila House. We are a private members club that opened in February 2017 with the aim of bringing together an assemblage of people from the business, creative, cultural, and intellectual communities who are drawn to each other by a shared interest to continuously learn about art, culture, food, business, and politics, and from the diversity of their fellow members themselves. It is a community of curious, committed, and caring individuals, and it lives on beyond the physical confines of the club. We began our webinar series in May 2020, covering and encouraging discussion about a range of topical issues, from business and investment to health and wellness and art and culture. We have featured both local and international speakers and continue to broaden our reach among members and non-members alike. Our previous webinars are available for viewing on the Manila House YouTube channel. That said, for the non-members among us, you might like to consider membership to Manila House. We have a very limited number of memberships still available. Please email membership@manilahouseinc.com for more information. And please be informed that in compliance with the allowable IATF and LGU capacities, Manila House is open to fully vaccinated members and their guests, and our takeaway services are open to the public. Please call us on 0917-816-3685 to place your orders. We also have your Manila House favorites now available in the frozen ready-to-eat version, and we would like to also invite members to drop by our newest space, Luna Lounge by ICOS, where you can chill, relax, and repeat to your heart's content. Luna House by ICOS is available for private bookings, but please make sure you make reservations by calling our reservations hotline on 0917-816-3685. Before we begin, just a few ground rules. This event is being recorded and will be up on the Manila House YouTube channel in a day or two. Please use the chat box and the Q&A box for any questions and comments, and we'll get to your questions as we go along. Thank you. So now let's go to our talk. A residency visa or a second passport in an EU country is increasingly being regarded as a form of security for individuals and families. The Portuguese Golden Visa program is one of the most popular ones available, and for a variety of reasons that will be explained today. Allow me to turn you over to Vicky Luis, a Manila House member and frequent collaborator on talks such as today's. She established and runs Golden Visa Centrale, which helps Filipinos acquire residency and citizenship in Portugal. Good afternoon, Vicky. As always, a pleasure to see you. Tell us more about becoming a permanent resident in Portugal.
Thank you, Bambina. Thank you for your kind introduction, and good afternoon, everybody. As Bambina mentioned, my name is Vicky Luis, President of Golden Visa Centrale and a fellow member of the Manila House. Today, we will share why the Golden Visa of Portugal is the gateway to Europe and the process it entails to embark on the program, plus, of course, the benefits of having a second residency, which I think everybody realizes is very vital today. I introduced the Golden Visa program to the Philippines in 2019. I am proud to say that we have had 100% success rate in processing Golden Visa applications. I was so passionate about the program as I felt it would help a lot of Filipinos. And I also have a daughter who will eventually go to university. And I learned that sending your children abroad for university as European citizens or Portuguese residents, actually, you would realize a lot of savings doing this that way rather than sending them as foreign students. It was really a huge difference. And I think later on, we will show you a video presentation that explains how. I was so excited to know that once one gets their resident card as Filipinos, you no longer need a Schengen visa. Additionally, with one investment of 280,000 euros, you can bring 3 generations of your family. There is absolutely no need to relocate. You simply have to stay an average of 7 days per year. These are just some of the benefits. Then you can live, work, study, and do business in Portugal, and eventually in the 27 European countries. Today, it is with great pleasure to introduce our speakers, beginning with Rosalia Torres, Head of Sales and International Markets from Irish Capital Partners. Good afternoon, Rosalia.
Thank you, Vicky. Good afternoon, everyone.
We also have joining us today Rakesh Majithia, Chief Investment Officer, also from Irish Capital Partners.
Good afternoon,
Hello,
everyone.
I would like to take this chance to let you know that Rakesh and Rosalia have been to the Philippines numerous times pre-pandemic. And a lot of my friends or clients that have availed of this program have met them personally, have visited the sites of the projects that we sold to them for their Golden Visa investment. And they've all come back saying they're very happy. They feel that the locations are very, very beautiful and wonderful. And I've gotten a lot of compliments. Thank you, Rack and Rosie, for joining us. Also, last but not least is Attorney Andre Miranda, founder and managing partner of Pinto Ribeiro Advogatos. They are our partner law firm in Portugal. They are actually also located in Lisbon and Porto. And we have processed many applications for my fellow Filipinos, and they've been very, very happy. He's also joined by Laura Tique, who is assigned just for the Philippines. I work with Laura a lot, and a lot of my clients are very happy with the responses and all of that. So thank you for joining us, Andre and Laura.
Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you, Vicky.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we will have a Q&A after this. So please stay around and type in your questions in the chat box, and I will go over most of them, if not all. And then we'll try to do a one-on-one if you want to do that after. So let me turn you over to Rakesh.
Okay, thank you, Vicky. Good afternoon, everyone, once again, and thank you to Manila House, and welcome to all of the Manila House members and attendees. So I think what we'd quite like to do is take you on a little bit of a journey through Portugal, for those of you that perhaps haven't been to the country, or for those that you have been. This will be revision, but I think the best place to start perhaps is with an introduction to who we are, what we do, etc. So I'm going to share my screen now. Do you see my screen? Do you see the screen? Yeah. Oh, sorry, hold on, wrong screen. So hopefully you guys can see that. And if we start, as I mentioned, with an introduction to us, Irish Capital Partners, we are a real estate investment and development company. We've been now going for coming up to 11 years. We have our offices in London, Dubai, and in Lisbon, obviously in Portugal. And our head office is actually located in the UK, in London. And that is very much where we started out life. For the first 6 years or so, we focused on investments and development within the UK. Some of those we went on to sell to institutions, others we continued to hold as part of our own portfolio. But around 4.5, 5 years ago, when Brexit was announced, we decided to expand our European footprint. And having done quite a bit of due diligence across various European countries, including Germany, Spain, etc., we very much became bought into the Portugal story. We like the macroeconomics there, we like the stability in the government, and we feel there's various factors that support real estate investment overall. We now have in excess of 200 million of our own capital deployed, and we feel very good about the sort of real estate market going forward, both in the UK and in Portugal. In terms of our specific business areas, I've already touched upon it, but just to hone in a little bit more detail, we continue to be active within the UK space. As I mentioned, our London office is our head office, and we have a lot of expertise on the ground there. We have, in the last 4.5, 5 years, expanded into Portugal. Some of these investments you would have seen because they have elements which are important to certain types of investors in that they carry residency and citizenship benefits. Other investments that we have in Portugal are just proprietary in nature. For example, we're working with Lisbon University to develop a 400 unit student accommodation facility. And then more widely beyond those two countries, because real estate is very much a local business and we're fully aware of that and we don't pretend to be an expert wherever we go, we do have investments in other countries. But that is where we partner with other local experts who are far better placed than us, but we continue to have investments in those other countries. This is just a snapshot of some of our previous projects. The first two are in the UK, examples of our student accommodation facilities, which we actually, both of these have now been sold institutionally quite recently. The others are actually examples of some of our Golden Visa related investments in Portugal. Again, all of these are now sold out as well. And I think it makes sense, going back to where I started, as to why we became attracted to Portugal. And I guess some of you may also be asking a similar set of questions in terms of why invest within Portugal, purely as an investment hypothesis. And I think this may resonate with some of you in terms of navigating a path and getting some confidence as to why Portugal could be interesting. For us, when we first looked at any new investment country, we want to tick off a couple of things, and we have effectively three tests. We want to understand the government, how stable it is, how encouraging it is to foreign direct investment. Secondly, we want to understand the nature of the economy. Is it well diversified, or is it focused only on one sector? And then thirdly, and obviously, we want to understand the nature of the real estate market, because that is, after all, what we would be investing in. And is it underpriced? Is it overvalued? Is it mature, etc.? If we can tick those three things off, then we think we have what is a making of a smart investment. Smart why? Because as some of you are probably familiar with, any property investment, you want it to behave in certain predictable ways, in that you want it to have yield and capital growth. The additional benefit you have with these investments is that they also give access to Golden Visa residency and citizenship. So with that as the sort of backdrop of the investment hypothesis, which we'll go into a little bit more detail on the following slides, but before we do that, I'd quite like to share a quick video which really introduces Portugal in quite a nice dramatic way. So let me play that first. So, come to visit, come to stay is a nice strap line. So let's dig a little bit deeper in terms of the country itself. And as I say, this may be vision or revision, but as a recap, the population of Portugal is approximately 10.5 million. They have a very high life expectancy, 81 years old. I think that speaks to their healthcare system. We'll come on to that in a second. Portuguese is the language that is spoken. It's the fifth most spoken language in the world. But what most of you will probably be relieved to hear is that actually in excess of 60% of the population speak English, and most of the public spaces are dual signposted. So that's quite a relief, particularly for me as well. The capital is Lisbon, the currency is euro, has a very nice Mediterranean climate, which is great because Portugal does have some of the world's most stunning beaches. And it does also have, and continues to do so, even in this inflationary environment, a very affordable cost of living. We'll come on to that in a second as well. In terms of the government, I think it's always important to understand the nature of the government in any country that you're either visiting or investing in. Portugal has a democracy led by a socialist liberal government. What does that mean? That means that it has any number of policies that are both inclusive and progressive in nature. There's no better examples of that than perhaps the foreign direct investment policies that Portugal has employed in the last 8 to 10 years. And that's not just to individuals under, say, the Golden Visa program, but also at a corporate level where they've invited many multinational companies coming to the country by introducing attractive tax policies, etc. Portugal's never in the news for the wrong reasons. It's in fact the third most peaceful country in the world behind Iceland and New Zealand. So that's an encouraging factor, particularly when you're thinking about things like security, etc. It has a legal system based on constitution and civil judiciary, much like the most of Europe. And the main governmental themes are expanding the infrastructure, the healthcare systems, which they've invested in quite heavily in the last 10 years, and the transport systems. In terms of understanding the economy, I think most people's frame of reference these days when they look at any country and its economy is to start with the financial crisis from 2008 and very much land in today's environment where we are in the middle of COVID. So we've sort of taken that frame of reference. I think it's fair to say that out of the European countries, particularly the Southern European countries, the economy of Portugal has been one of the winners coming out of the banking crisis, so much so that, in fact, the European Commission and the GDP forecast for the country for the last 2 to 3 years have been top of the pile in terms of European countries. 4.9% in 2021, 5.8% in 2022, etc. And that is in advance of countries like the UK and Germany. There's a reason for that. It's because of the fact that whilst many people, in their minds at least, locate Portugal as being a great tourism country, which it is, it does in fact have a very mixed economy in that it has a very strong manufacturing base. More recently, it's very much adapted to the tech industry and is becoming one of the leading tech hubs within Europe. The student education system, particularly at the higher levels, university has always been very strong. Travel and tourism is an obvious one. The real estate market is also very interesting, particularly for someone like us for the last 5 years, because it has all of the elements that you would like: commercial, retail, and residential. On the right-hand side, you can see many commentators. This is just one example, the Ernst & Young report, which talks about why Portugal has been leading the way in terms of the European countries. In terms of those multinational companies that have come to Portugal in recent years, this is just a snapshot. Probably many of these names you recognize and resonate with you. They have chosen Portugal to be their European sort of headquarters, which is, again, a very encouraging sign when you think about employment, the economy, etc. With all of these multinational companies, typically what you will find is that causes a lot of an expat community to arise within the country. Most recently, I think the Americans have been top of the pile, but in general, Portugal has a very mixed community, if you like, and that is a function of the fact that it's very inviting, not just through the Golden Visa program, but also because of the multinational companies that bring their foreign staff into the country as well. Typically, what you find is when you have a growing expat community, they often start looking for international schools. Portugal's always had a very strong higher level education at university, but now in the last 8 to 10 years, you see quite a few very strong international schools, whether they be British schools or American schools located within Portugal, supporting that middle level of education as well. And again, adding to the economy. In terms of COVID, I think this is obviously something that it seems we're always constantly talking about. And I think it's fair to say that Portugal's response to the pandemic has been pretty much top of the pile in terms of the European countries. I think it's number one in terms of vaccinations, etc. There's a couple of reasons why Portugal perhaps handled the pandemic better than some of its other European cousins, for example, Spain and Italy. Probably because it has a smaller population, therefore structurally was better equipped. But also I mentioned the healthcare systems, which they have actively invested in the last sort of 8 to 10 years. And I think perhaps they were better placed to support the effects of such a pandemic. From a fiscal stimulus perspective, I think Portugal's done everything that most of the European countries have done in terms of introducing stimulus packages. I was in Portugal a couple of months ago, and it was difficult for me to get the hotel that I wanted, etc. It seemed like tourism had come back, the airports were busy. So very much seeing that recovery coming into place, which is nice to see. In terms of the real estate market, which is obviously the central focus of what we're talking about, I think one of the things when we entered into Portugal around 5 years ago, that caught our eye was really this metric at the bottom of the screen, where you can see a comparison of residential prices per square meter across various European city centres. And you can see there that Lisbon's very much undervalued versus its European cousins. And from our perspective, as a real estate investor, that is obviously something that we like to see as an entry point. But also we backed that up because we then became invested into Portugal because we felt that the economy was more than capable of growing in terms of its real estate growth factors. We fast forward to today and you see any number of commentators perhaps now agreeing with us, so we feel good about that, whether it's Bloomberg, Forbes or Knight Frank, commentating the fact that Portugal continues to be one of the few bright spots from a real estate investment perspective, that's both pre and post-COVID. In terms of what that means from a number crunching perspective, you can see here that actually across Portugal as of 2021, house price growth was almost 10%. In places like Lisbon, this is slowed a little bit, but still in excess of 5%. How we would view this going forward, we would be far more conservative in terms of where we expect the growth in yield rates to be, but we expect them to be nonetheless still at the 4s and 5%. The reason for that is because we can expect that pull to par effect to continue, even though there has been some growth to the upside in recent years. That will also be supported by a lot of these governmental policies encouraging foreign direct investment, whether that be individuals or companies. I think the other thing for people to understand, it's always useful to understand the nature and the makeup of the market. I think if you look at who has been buying or who have been the largest buyers within Portugal, these are the top 3 nationalities. So it's the Brazilians, there's commonality in language there, so perhaps that is an obvious one. But after that, you have the UK and the French. At least up until last year, the UK was not a Golden Visa motivated investor, and the French continue to be very strong, and they're obviously not Golden Visa motivated investors either. So unlike what is possibly reported in the press quite heavily, that it's the Chinese that are buying up the whole of Portugal, in fact, it's actually these top 3 nationalities, and the second 2 are more lifestyle driven. Secondly, currency issues. It is true to say that the euro has largely underperformed versus the dollar, and therefore you do have dollar investors, whether they be Americans or dollar peg investors, such as people from Hong Kong or people from the Middle East, who find assets in Europe to be relatively cheap at the moment from a currency perspective. And then finally, you have the Golden Visa program itself, which since it was launched in 2012, has attracted in excess of 6 billion of investment. The scheme continues to be active. There have been some changes. We'll come on to explain what those are in a second, but it does continue to be a very popular location in terms of investment and Golden Visa. So I think that neatly leaves us at a point where you've understood a little bit about the country and the economy and the real estate market, but perhaps now you're asking yourselves some questions about how the Golden Visa program works. And so at this stage, I hand over to Andre, who will be able to explain in detail some of the highlights and the entry requirements for accessing the program. So Andre, over to you.
Thank you very much, Rakesh. It's a pleasure to be here today, this afternoon, and to give you a short trip on the Portuguese Golden Visa program. So this program was introduced in 2012, in the end of 2012, by the Portuguese government. The idea was to attract foreign investment and to allow non-European Union citizens to get residency permits in an initial stage, and then also get an access to the Portuguese citizenship after 5 years. As Rakesh mentioned, it has been a successful program. More than 6 billion euros already of capital already invested in Portugal in different options of investment, not only real estate, but also by setting up companies, creating job positions. Obviously, that real estate is the most attractive, the more interesting for investors, as I will going to explain you. We have more than 10,000 applicants already, and of course, all their family members also included. In terms of the different options of investment that we can highlight, so as I was saying, real estate has been the top priority for investors. We are different thresholds, so we can be from 280,000 euros up to 500,000 euros. 280,000 euros will be investment made in properties that are in the so-called low-density territories of Portugal, and also it requires not only to purchase but also to make some type of renovation in the property. Also, there are other options more expensive, like transferring money to Portugal, or even buy participation units in private equity funds. So in terms of what are the requirements and the key points? So in terms of requirements, it's quite easy and to understand. So besides all the personal documentation, such as a passport, proof of address, and clean criminal records, what is important is that the investor needs to transfer capital into Portugal and then to conduct with such funds to conduct the investment. One of the things that makes Portugal very, very attractive in terms of when you compare it to other European countries is the short period of stay. So in the initial 2 years, only 7 days, and then every 2 years, 14 days, which is makes in a period of 5 years, it's only almost 5 weeks. So it's which is very little. Portugal we have a very broad concept of family. So it means that not only the main investor, but also the spouse, children, parents-in-law can be included in the program. So with a single investment, all these family members will have the same benefits as the main applicant. This by investing, you get a residency permit, and this means that you will be considered legally resident in Portugal. Okay, you don't need to move to Portugal and to stay here on a permanent basis, but you are automatically considered a legal resident in Portugal with all the benefits that it can include, such as living here, working here, traveling freely around the Schengen area. So this is really, really interesting for people that are in their country of origin, like you in the Philippines, and that you are also entitled to have a legal residency in a European country, and meaning that you can travel freely without needing to get the Schengen visa to come to Europe. Also, another important thing to highlight is that by the fact that you become legal resident, you don't become tax resident. And this is very important. So you'll still be a resident in the Philippines. Obviously that you will get return on the investment that you make in Portugal. If you do it in the property investment, you get rent. This will mean that you will pay rental on the rental income that you get. You will pay taxes, but the Portuguese tax authorities are not going to charge you any kind of tax on on the income that you get abroad. So this is very important. You are not becoming a Portuguese tax resident, and in this sense, there will be no worldwide income taxes involved. Also, in terms of the give you in terms of comparing with other countries, I think we have this interesting slide where you can see the different criteria in the, let's say, the 5 most popular programs in Europe: Portugal, Ireland, Greece, Malta, and Spain. And of course, I will, not because I'm Portuguese, but it's obviously that I see that the Portuguese program combines a set of requirements, a set of criteria that make it like the best option available in the market. I told you about the short period of stay, also, but I would also like to highlight you the route to the citizenship. It's very short in terms. It's only 5 years. We, from our experience here with all the clients that started earlier the program, they already completed. They got their passports. The requirement is just getting a language test done, quite easy one because it's basic knowledge of Portuguese, level A2. And so with this, by holding a residency permit in 5 years, by coming to Portugal only around 5 weeks in this period of 5 years and passing this language test, you will be qualified to get the Portuguese citizenship for lifetime. So this means that you will also become European Union citizen for a lifetime. And so it's a very, very beneficial program and for you. And if you compare other countries, that this is more difficult. One of the questions that usually clients ask, look, what can I do after 5 years? Okay. If you are not able to learn Portuguese, of course, you will be able to hold the Golden Visa. So this is very important. So we have clients that they tell us, look, I'm not yet prepared to pass the exam. Can I still continue and to renew my Golden Visa? Absolutely. So the first option, number one, will be to just maintain the status, maintain your Golden Visa by renewing the residency card. If you are able to learn Portuguese and to pass the exam, then you will have 2 options, either separately or even simultaneously. So one is to become a permanent resident. Another one is to get the Portuguese citizenship, as I told you. So it's even possible, if you are not willing to become Portuguese because you don't want to have double passports, so it's possible to get a long-term residency permit, okay, for you, with all the benefits that are included in that permit. Now, I would like to mention what are the government fees. We are talking about around 45,000 euros in a typical family of 4 members, okay, the main applicant and 3 family members. These fees are paid during the 5-year period. So initially, we need to pay 533 euros per applicant just to start the process. After you get your application approved, you will be required to pay initially 5,392 euros for the issuance of the residency card. So this is a cost per applicant. And then on each renewal, which estimating 2 renewals before getting the passport, we are talking about 2,696 euros per applicant. So this means that in terms of overall family, 45,000 euros per person, 11,000 euros.
So I think that
we
Andre,
lost
sorry,
you,
it's a blank screen there, but I think this is where we show a quick video regarding the thing that Vicky mentioned at the start, and I think in conjunction with her daughter as well, about the education benefits that the Golden Visa could bring. So let me just play that and share that with everyone.
Did you know non-European students pay more than 10 times the tuition fees than European citizens for the same education degree in Europe? Yes, you heard me right. Brandon from Ireland pays 3,000 euros tuition fees per year, while John pays 45,000 euros, both studying medicine in Dublin. Even more concerning, John, as a non-EU citizen, may not be able to live and work in Europe after graduating. So, as parents, what can we do? Easy. Have you heard about the Portuguese Golden Visa program? 1. Invest in an eligible property for as low as 350,000 euros. 2. Obtain your Portuguese residency card. 3. Spend as little as 7 days a year in Portugal for 5 years. 4. Apply for you and your family's citizenship to acquire a lifetime of European rights and benefits. Hurry up and don't miss out on this limited window of opportunity.
So I think on that note, you've learned a little bit about the Golden Visa program and the requirements. Perhaps now is a good time for me to hand over to my colleague Rosalia, who can talk about one of the developments that we currently have in the Algarve. So Rosie, over to you.
Thank you, Reg. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Vicky. Thank you to Manila House for coordinating the event. Very happy to be with everyone today. So as my colleague said, we heard until now about Portugal. We heard it's a prosperous, a safe country, lively, affordable, cosmopolitan, and there has a real estate market that is well regulated and booming at the moment. We also heard from Andre all the benefits on the Golden Visa. That is a program that is government implemented, that is being well tested with over 27,000 cards that have been issued, very flexible, and that is one of the very few programs that leads to the citizenship. Now, what we are going to do is to show you what are the investment that would actually give you both the benefits, the access to the country and the access to the residency and later on the citizenship. And the first thing that we need to learn is that these investments cannot be made in anywhere or cannot be any type of real estate investment. There are 13 locations that are the ones that will give the eligibility to the Golden Visa. So we cannot choose freely any spot of the country. We need to be mindful on what are the available areas. And these maps show what are those areas where we can find residential projects that remain to be eligible. And within those areas, which ones are in addition eligible for the lowest entry point of 280,000 euros. So we are on the spot where we see the name of Sagres, which is the south of the country, and the very only or the only spot that remains available for Golden Visa in the Algarve with a beachfront. And this is something very important. We will come back to this, but it means a lot in terms of investment. So first, for those that are not familiarized with Portugal and with the region of Algarve, just to understand why we chose Algarve and over other regions. Algarve, it is extremely popular international destination for tourists, but also for many local families, not only for holidays, but also as a place of living, as a home. And in fact, when we look into the country, into the region, it is one of the wealthiest across Portugal, only after the capital, after Lisbon, but before other cities such as Porto. So the GDP per capita, it is at the 83% of the average of the European Union, which is actually very meaningful for the south of Europe. And the economy is not only dependent on the tourists, but it's also quite strong, of course, in real estate, but also in fishing and agriculture. So that's something important. And with regards to the real estate market, it's been for the last few years the one that behaving at the highest growth, with the last year growth on prices about 12%, and with a very similar behavior for this year, 2022. Lifestyle, something that we believe actually is quite popular, and also in the Philippines, Algarve is a destination for golfing, known worldwide and very popular also for Europeans. We do have about 30 golf courses with international tournaments, and that is something that whether you practice golf or actually something that you would like to consider for the investment point of view is very relevant, because we do have a very good occupancy and we do have tourists throughout all the year, not only in summer. And one of the reasons is because of the golfing, because of all these tournaments that are happening. So now with going to the details on the project, as we mentioned, the Southwest Sagres, it is an eligible Golden Visa program from the lowest price point of 280,000 euros. It is located in the Algarve, in a town called Sagres, which is actually a beach town. And the project, in fact, it is only 200 meters from the beach. It's a total of 120 units with two typologies, 2-bedroom and studios. We do have right now the last 22 units. It's been extremely popular because of two things. One, the lifestyle that it offers, and second, of course, because of the investment opportunity and the Golden Visa access. Top quality finishes, very important. It is a residential project with freehold and full ownership. So for those that are investing with us, once the property is refurbished and at handover, they will have their own title deed of the property, and this gives them the full control whether they want to rent it out or sell it at any point of time. This is for their decision with no limitations. Now, for those that want to have this legal control on the property, but at the same time want to enjoy the convenience of having it managed, we do offer a 3% rent for 5 years, which will be fixed from the time of handover and up to the 5 years. It will take you to that point of application of the passport, so we'll cover mostly of the full cycle of the Golden Visa to passport. And this is, as we said, something that is optional. But if you decide to go for it, you still can enjoy the property for 14 days a year, free of charge. And this is off-peak season. So not in summer, not in September, but any other month, yourself or your family or friends can enjoy the property without any charge. So we've seen in some of the photos, but we are going to see a video soon. There is a lot of facilities. We do have a lagoon pool. We have a rooftop terrace, on-site gym, surfing room, landscape gardens, and all of that of private use because it's a gated condominium. This image shows you the 4 buildings that the condominium has, A, B, C, and D. In building B is where we have the majority of the facilities, the gym, the rooftop terrace, the surfing room, the reception, and it is all of the units are 2 bedrooms. We do have the last 2 units of 2 bedroom in building B. Building C and D were launched at the very beginning when we launched the project, and that was actually just a few months ago, and are fully sold out. Building A is the last one that we launched recently, and we still have quite a few units on first floor and second floor, and we would be happy to discuss in detail with any of you that is interested. Some more images that shows building A and the terrace on building B, and of course the proximity to the beach. This is the lagoon pool. And one, I think that also quite relevant for the project will be to understand the micro location. What is Sagres? Where is it located? What are the activities that you could expect to do in the town? One of the very peculiar and charismatic things of this town and why it's visited by many people is because it is right in the corner of the peninsula where the Atlantic joins the Mediterranean. So we are surrounded literally by beach. Some of the beach are Atlantic Ocean, some of them are Mediterranean, and this actually makes it very nice because it's a very different scenery one to the other. Within walking distance of the project at only 1.5 kilometers, we do have 6 different beaches. The one that is nearest, as I mentioned, is only 200 meters. The location, as much as is near to the beach, we are actually right in the city center. So walking distance to any entertainment activities. We have restaurants, cafes, of course, pharmacies, supermarkets, anything you can think of. In terms of restaurants, we have a big selection from the high-end restaurants in the hotels nearby to the local seafood restaurants on the same side of the beach. But Sagres is very well known for the seafood. We have the best lobster and oysters, and there are many visitors that actually come just for that. Hotels. Near to us, there is a big selection. We actually chose these 3 particularly nice and near to us that are beachfront, all of them. The one in the middle, Memo Valera, is actually door to door, like it's 1 minute away from us. It is a hotel that is beachfront, has restaurants, has also, of course, all the facilities of pool, beach access, the gym, and it is something that many of our buyers think that it will add a lot more to the lifestyle to already all the facilities that we have. The one on the left, Martinhal Hotel, it is actually very well known across Portugal. It is a luxury hotel, 5-star and spa. It has also a condominium of villas, of luxury villas, and we're going to go back to these 2 samples because are not also only references in terms of landmarks, but also are relevant in terms of the references as investment, as a rental, or as an appreciation that you can expect. And these are these two examples that are what I was just talking about, the rental that you could expect if we don't opt for the fixed rent, and the appreciation that already the area has gone through for the last few years. So in terms of the rental, Memo Valera, the hotel that we mentioned just beside us, 4-star hotel, beachfront, it has in Booking.com and all those similar platforms, a price per night at around 315 euros, 280, 315 euros per night during the high season. So this is a good reference because this is only bedrooms, not even studios. So it's a good reference what you could expect to have for the studios if you were to rent it by yourself in Airbnb or through a property manager. Second reference, also quite relevant in terms of how is the demand and the pricing been in the last few years in Sagres. The Martignal villas that were launched in 2011, we mentioned 4 minutes from us, were launched at 220,000 euros at that time. Today, you can find anything below 475 and up to 515. So more than double the price in these 10, 11 years. So with this, we are gonna now show a video that takes you through some of the projects that we've done in Portugal already. The last 90 seconds are all images of SBS Algarve. And of course, after this, we're going to have a Q&A, and we will be able to, if anyone is interested, discuss about the units that are available, the layout, the square meters, etc. But that we can do with Vicky in one-to-one with the clients. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. We'll actually now go over the Q&A, the questions that were asked. I think first of all, and I think very important, people have been asking, why Portugal over Spain? And I think best to answer this would be Rosalia, because Rosalia is also a Spanish citizen. Hi, Rosie.
Okay, yes, wonderful. Thank you, Vicky. So I think that in terms of Spain over Portugal, first thing that we look into the countries is that both have a very similar lifestyle and culture and climate. So in that sense, in terms of what you can expect of the country, it's very similar. But yes, there are some people that for some reason are more familiarized with Spain. And I have been asked this numerous times. When we got into the detail of the Golden Visa programs for both, I think that it's important to understand three main differences. First one, of course, is the investment point. The minimum in Spain remains to be 500,000 euros, while in Portugal, there are projects such as ours that actually enjoy a big benefit of a reduction this amount from 500,000 to 280,000 euros. So first difference is the investment amount. Second difference, and probably one of the most important, is that in Spain, the Golden Visa, it is a residency program that does not lead to citizenship. So in order for anyone to access a passport in Spain would have to relocate in Spain. And for Filipinos, it would be a minimum of 2 years plus the time that you are applying. So it ends being around 3 years minimum stay in Spain. And this, of course, requires some family planning. Some people can do, and other people cannot do because, of course, their business is in their home country. So very important thing to consider. Portugal, as we heard already from Andre, does not require the relocation. So as soon as we have completed our 5 years Golden Visa with only 7 days visit every year, then we will be able to apply for the citizenship without relocating. Now, this very important point triggers the third point, which is also something relevant to consider, which is the tax implications. So if we were to actually relocate to Spain, because for some of the families may be an option, and you can consider, I'm going to move my family to Spain in order to apply for this passport, there would be very big tax implications that we would not have in Portugal. So the first one to compare is that Spain does have a wealth tax that Portugal doesn't. And in Spain, we actually get to pay, depending on the amount of the wealth, but it can reach up to 3.5% on the wealth. And that is actually a big amount to consider to be paid yearly. And it's something that we, many of the clients, when they learn about this, they reconsider Portugal that doesn't have a wealth tax. And also Spain has the donation and the heritage tax, and in Portugal we don't have those. So when we are considering to invest in Portugal in a real estate that one day is going to be for our kids, it is very important to learn that does not have any heritage tax. However, in Spain can actually reach up to 35% of the value of that property.
Okay, thank you, Rosie. I have a question for Andre. How fast does the process take place? And heard the Golden Visa program in Portugal was closing. Is it true?
Sorry, Vicky. No, the program is not closing. What happened is that the government decided to do some restrictions in the types of investment, but the program there is still fully open with all the main requirements being the same as ever. As I mentioned, we are having, this is a very successful program with many clients and even many new clients in this coming year of 2022. In terms of the deadlines, so it's important that clients are aware that first, of course, they need to prepare documentation, then they need to address the investment process. This can be 1-2 months to be done. After this is done, the clients, they need to submit their initial application to the immigration authorities. This is all done online. Currently, we are facing some delays due to the to the big number of caseloads that was submitted in the end of 2021. So we should expect 3-4 months to get this initial approval. And then only after that it's possible to visit Portugal to do the biometrics. So I would say that very probably in this initial stage, around 5-6 months. So consider to collect the fingerprint in the end of this year, beginning of next year.
Okay, thank you, Andre. I have a question for Rakesh. Do we need a certain amount to invest or acquire the visa? What is the minimum investment?
Sure, and we sort of touched upon this, but it's a good question. I think if we take a step back, the idea of Portugal having this foreign direct investment program is to encourage investment into Portugal from overseas. So the first starting point is, well, how much is that investment amount and what qualifies as an eligible investment? And as I think Andre touched upon, property by far is the most popular type of investment. And the lowest investment threshold for particular types of property is 280,000 euros. And that amount would need to be evidenced as invested upfront before an individual can progress with his Golden Visa application. And again, as a policy matter, the idea is to encourage investment into the country, and therefore the Portuguese authorities would want to see evidence of that before they process the Golden Visa.
Thank you. There's a question, and I think I'd like to answer it. What are the requirements in order to maintain the visa? Actually, it's very simple. There is no age limit. There's no healthcare. You simply need to do 3 things. You need to keep the investment for 5 years, visit Portugal at least 7 days a year, and guys, stay out of jail because you will need a clear NBI throughout the 5 years that you have the residency up until you do your citizenship or permanent residency. So it's really very simple. There are only 3 things. There's another question. Are dependent brothers and sisters eligible? Would you like to answer that, Andre?
So brothers and sisters, they are not eligible. So only direct family members. So I'm talking about the main investor, the spouse, children, and parents. The only indirect is the parents-in-law that are also accepted into in the program. So if you have any brother or sister, I think the best thing is to do another application and to include also the brother and sister in the application, in the separate application.
Thank you, Andre. Very important question. Does residency include healthcare?
Sorry, I did not understand. Sorry.
Does the residency include healthcare? If they avail of the Golden Visa, will they have healthcare?
Sure. Yeah. So as I mentioned in my presentation, so Golden Visa they are going to be considered legal residents in Portugal with all the benefits and all the rights that the normal Portuguese citizen like me has. So this means access to healthcare protection, social protection, even justice, to the system of justice. So everything, the benefits of our welfare state are available for anyone that is a legal resident in Portugal. So it will be possible to register in our national health system, which is considered also very, very highly ranked healthcare system. And this is, and also tell you that this is free, so it's free of charge. So everyone has access to healthcare without paying anything. Okay, so either to big hospitals or local healthcare centers that are available in each neighborhood.
Which I'd like to add is one of the reasons I also was so excited about this program was because in the Philippines, as we all know, our healthcare system is not the best after one person, after you retire, that's when you actually would feel all the sickness and you don't have, a very, very good or efficient public healthcare system unless you want to pay out of pocket. So I felt that being able to bring your parents and your parents-in-law that are retirees, at that point in their life, I think healthcare is very important. And this is one of the motivators that had me do this program and introduce it to the Philippine market. But thank you, Andre, for answering that question. There's another question for you, Andre. If you get your citizenship, do you have to live in Portugal?
You don't need to live in Portugal. So you just you just have to hold your residency permit for 5 years, then to get to pass in the language test, and then you get your Portuguese passport, and then you are not obliged to be here on a permanent basis. So you can still be in the Philippines and hold a Portuguese passport for a lifetime. Of course, every 5 years you need to renew the passport, like as it's a document that needs to be updated with your personal data, but there is no requirement in terms of living, staying here. It's you can even not come anytime to Portugal, so you don't even, there's no requirements in terms of the period of stay. So after getting the passport, you are completely free to decide wherever you want to stay, even live in an European Union country freely, because in Europe we have this freedom of movement, and also I think is an additional benefit that comes together with the passport.
Okay, I can ask this question to Rakesh. Are there payment terms available for the property, or is it just a one-time payment?
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly look at any payment terms, but just refer back to the last point that I made, which is in order to progress the Golden Visa application, an individual needs to evidence that they've paid everything up front. But that's not to say that we can't look at extended payment terms. We can, but whoever that is would need to just keep in mind that they won't be able to progress the Golden Visa application until such time the full amount is paid.
Okay. Is there an age limit for children dependents, Andre?
No, there is no specific limitation for children dependent, but it would be strange that adult children, that after graduating and after going to the university, they are still to be dependent on from the parents. But in legally speaking, it's possible that you have someone already with 30 years old that is still economic dependent from the parents and they're still living with the parents. But you will need to evidence. So it's important to always collect all the evidence. Of course, if someone is studying at university with 20 years old, this is a very good and very reliable evidence, and immigration will not raise any question. But if someone is living with 35, 40 years old still with their parents, of course, they will ask some questions. It's very important that the dependent still, even adult, needs to keep the single state. So needs to be single, cannot be married, he cannot work or have an active life. So this is the things that we need to check before accepting a family member that is already an adult. Okay.
Thank you. Apart from the property cost and government fees, what are the other fees that we should be aware of? Let me tell you that when we actually do like a presentation for a project that you're interested in, we send you an Excel with the Golden Visa calculator. But I guess, Rosie, would you like to answer this?
Okay, so there are two groups of fees. The one that you already described with the Golden Visa, and the second one is the transactional fees in order to purchase the property, and these are mainly the taxes. There are two taxes on the purchase, which are a one-time tax, that are the ITP and the stamp duty, IMT, sorry, and the stamp duty, and this together it is a 7.3%. And the second actually costs are only the notary and registration, which actually are quite low. It is around 1,200, 1,500 euros combined. So these are the other expenses that we need to consider.
Thank you, Rosie. There's another question. How long is the processing after the real estate has been purchased?
This is for me, I think. So it depends on. Sorry. So I think this will depend on the ability to collect all the documentation. So we need to submit. So after the property purchase is completed, of course, the documentation will be updated, but we will need to collect from the Philippines all personal documentation. And there are some of these documentation that needs to be legalized. Okay, so it needs to be legalized before the Portuguese consular authorities abroad. And so it will depend a bit on the timing and on the capacity to collect all this documentation for all the family members for the main applicant. But as soon as we receive the documentation, we will, of course, immediately submit and the process.
Okay, last, I think we'll take a last question because we're mindful of time. Some are consultative, so we will actually set up a Zoom meeting with you, or you can always reach me after this, and we will actually send emails after. But there's a last question, maybe Raki could answer. So you can invest 280,000 euros and have your whole family acquire residency or citizenship.
Yes, I mean, I think that is one of the very attractive points about the Golden Visa program. As Andre highlighted, it's quite a generous program in terms of reunifying family members, whether it's your children of appropriate age or your parents or in-laws, etc. It does work out quite cost efficient, particularly when you compare it to some of the other European offerings.
Thank you. Thank you. I think there are two things I'd like to add. For the property in Sagres that we presented today, there actually it includes parking in the price. And although the promotion has ended for the furniture package, Rakesh and Rosalia have kindly agreed that for this webinar, they will extend that promotion to the attendees today up until next Friday if you decide to pursue with this project. And I believe, Rosie, would you like to jump in? It's free for the studios.
Correct.
And
correct.
we get 50. Go ahead, Rosie. I'll have you say.
No, but it was correct. So it is so the furniture packs are actually valued in 20,000 euros plus VAT for the studios and in 24,000 euros plus VAT on the 2-bedroom units. So the promotion is actually for the studios, it would be included. So that will be a big saving because it is the 20,000 euros plus VAT that will be fully discounted. And for the bedrooms is 50% discount, which is 12,000 euros plus VAT, which is also a very significant saving. As Vicky mentioned, this was a promotion actually that we had in the month of March, so actually quite long expired, but we are only giving this promotion for this week for those attendees that would like to proceed and book the unit before next Friday.
Yes, just to give you snippets, we are actually planning on launching in the coming weeks, in maybe a week or so, or maybe 2 weeks, a property that is a co-ownership in the heart of Lisbon. It's actually beautiful, and we will probably do another webinar, or I could get in touch with you on one-on-one calls. However, this project in the South Beach, Sagres, I have visited it personally. I was there in January. And in January, it did not feel like winter at all. It's very nice and sunny. It was like 60 degrees. It's 200 meters to the beachfront. It will be gone very soon as these properties that are packaged for the Golden Visa. In my experience, since I've been doing it in 2019, they go very fast. So, and it is freehold. So you would actually own a unit. And you have a yield, and it's managed for you. So it's nicely packaged, very well located. So please take advantage of what you can get while it's still available. Having said that, we would like to thank all of you for joining us today. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to our attendees, and thank you to Manila House. We will get in touch with you through email for those that registered and left their email addresses, or we will actually send you messages. And please feel free to, contact me at my email or my cell phone, which Manila House has my number as well, because I'm also a member. And we will be very glad to arrange a private consultation or a quick chat. Whichever way you want to go, I'm here for you. Please reach out. Thank you again, and stay safe, and good luck to all of us Filipinos.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming us.